Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And welcome to Taco Tuesday.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos. It's raining tacos out in the street. Tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, 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 yum. It's like a treat.
Yes, folks, today is Taco Tuesday, where we celebrate the quintessential American food. And that's right, I called it the quintessential American food because, hey, just like everything else that is really cool that is American, it started out someplace else. Here in America, we only made it better. Just want to let you guys know, however you are tuning in, want to encourage you to please make sure that you comment if you're watching us live. For those of you who don't know, who maybe are watching this for the first time, we are on every Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. If you are watching us via Facebook, if you're watching us via Rumble, if you're watching us via YouTube or Twitter, we're taking your comments live. Now, unless you're watching this through UpsLens, that's another live one. We can actually are taking your comments live as well. So I want to encourage you, please go ahead, comment on the program. Unfortunately, my good friend Mike is not able to be here today. This is going to be kind of a wonky week because, notice we weren't here yesterday. We're here today. We'll be here tomorrow, but we're not going to be here Thursday or Friday. We're going to take a nice long week, and we're actually going to do as we try to do on Hump Day and actually begin the weekend probably right after we're done with the program. So just so y'all know, for those of you who tune in on the regular. Let's go ahead and jump into the program, but before we do, we got to do the usual. We got to give our quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start here with Hitman Industries. If you are looking for a rifle or pistol caliber barrel, you're looking to rebarrel your old AR, or maybe you want to do a completely new build, go to hitmanindustries.net. If you are a first responder, you get a 20% discount, but they'll have all of the calibers that you could possibly be looking for, and guess what? They also have Glock barrels. So once again, check them out, Hitman Industries. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly, referred to by the late President Ronald Reagan as the conscience of the Republican Party. I like to call them the Republican wing of the Republican Party in the state of California, working to help elect conservatives from all offices, whether it be, school board all the way up to President of the United States. Check them out at cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, join CRA. Now we've got Hawg Holsters, HAWG, holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. Whatever you're looking for, if you're looking for inside the waistband, outside the waistband, you're looking for tactical holster, concealed carry holster, whatever particular setup you may have with an optic or with a flashlight, trust me, they can hook you up. Just go to hogholster.com, use the discount code THERUNDOWN, all caps, no spaces, just like it is right there, all caps, no spaces, just one word. And go ahead and get your discount today. That's hogholsters.com. And then finally, if you're looking for outdoor gear, tactical gear, camping gear, cold weather gear, or warm weather gear, you want to go to uscombatgear.com. They have all things tactical, except the gun. They don't sell guns. But they have everything else that you'll need. They have fast shipping. They have a great selection, excellent prices, and they're veteran-owned and operated. Check them out today. That's uscombatgear.com. All right, let's start with this first story here. Biden's selective prosecution. Now, we hear Democrats all the time talking about, they're always talking about January 6th. And they're talking about how violent January 6th was. And they're always talking about how violent conservatives are. I mean, you have them, they're basically saying, the Biden administration is right now saying, the greatest threat of violence and terrorism that we have in these United States, it's coming from the right. It's right-wing extreme conservatives, those who happen to be pro-life. Well, it's interesting because, there's been some really, really violent riots lately over at the Democratic National Convention. And the interesting thing is, the Biden administration is doing absolutely nothing about it. And that brings us to our first story. So here, this is once again being reported by Fox News. It basically says Biden DOJ under fire for prosecuting a 75-year-old pro-life activist, but taking no action on violent DNC rioters. The Biden Justice Department is taking heat after praising the conviction of a 75-year-old pro-life activist for an alleged crime that took place 3 years ago, but so far ignoring hundreds of violent anti-Israel rioters, or let's say pro-Hamas rioters, that pepper sprayed police last week. Last week, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Matthew Graves, announced the conviction of Paulette Harlow, 75, of Kingston, Massachusetts, for a federal conspiracy against rights and a Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act violations for participating in a protest at an abortion clinic in 2020. Graves said Harlow and a group of 8 others conspired to prevent fellow citizens from exercising their right to receive and to provide reproductive health care. He praised the conviction for the crime that could carry up to 11 years in prison and $250,000 in fines. But some critics are crying foul, noting that Graves has yet to condemn or preview possible prosecution efforts for roughly 200 Palestinian activists, pro-Hamas activists, some armed with pepper spray, who violently rioted at the Democratic National or at the DNC headquarters and injured 6 Capitol police officers on November 15th. Now, once again, is this something that we should be surprised by? No, absolutely not. Why would we be surprised by this? Let us not forget, there was an entire year of violent protests, of riots, of looting, of destruction of both private and public property, of assault on law enforcement officers. Almost an entire year of these sorts of things. And Democrats, well, you had the Vice President of the United States who was raising money to bail those protesters, those rioters, out of jail. Why would we expect that there would be any sort of a prosecution? Why would we expect that? See, when they do it, when those on the left do it, well, it's, they're standing up against the oppressor, right? That's when they do it, that's what they're doing. They are mostly peaceful. The mostly peaceful that includes watching fires burn in the background as they are reporting on these stories. It includes up to 25 deaths. I think there were a total of about 25 deaths during the George Floyd riots. Yeah, about 25 of them, including children, including a retired law enforcement officer. But, those are okay. But let a 75-year-old woman block the door to an abortion clinic or stand in front of the door to an abortion clinic. And, well, that is a crime that is so violent that, it needs jail time. It needs 11 years of jail time.
Unexpected expense.
That's how they roll. That's how Democrats roll. That's their vision of justice. And that's kind of frustrating. I mean, I don't know about you. To me, it is very frustrating. It's very difficult to not see 2 levels of justice. When you see what is happening to former President Donald Trump, and how you have prosecutors from all over the country going after him, and somehow, some way, all deciding at the same time that they're going to hold their trials at the same time on basically what were, for lack of a better term, are trumped up charges. But yet somehow, despite having a mountain of at least circumstantial evidence from his own laptop, Hunter Biden just seems to be skating on by. just seems to be getting on through, no problems. But you want us to believe that there is not a two-tier, there's not political bias in our justice system. I'm sorry, I am not buying it. The one thing I will say about this stuff going on with the pro-Hamas protesters is that at least there are those on the left who support Israel, who condemn what Hamas did, and see these protests for what they are, that now they get a chance to see. They get a chance to take the red pill and see exactly what the Biden Justice Department is doing, to see the uneven justice. You know what I mean? The scales are being pulled from their eyes. And folks, that's what it's going to take. So if nothing else, what this is doing is revealing the false justice that is being portrayed or pretended by the Biden administration. And that's all it really is. It is a fake pretend justice. They're pretending like they are interested in justice. And I think you and I, well, we know that they're not. They're just not. Anyway, that takes us on to our next story. And this is another example of once again, selective prosecution. There is a soldier who is basically being charged for equipment that he left behind in Afghanistan. Yes, that's right. You heard me. He's being charged for equipment that he left behind in Afghanistan. So right here, this is in Newsweek. So it says here, soldier blasts Biden after getting charged for gear he left in Afghanistan. A former Army soldier is blaming the Biden administration after he says he was ordered to pay for gear he brought home from his last deployment mission in Afghanistan. President Joe Biden has made no apologies for the withdrawal from Afghanistan following 2 decades of American involvement there. A few months ago, after he was sworn in, Biden announced that U.S. troops would exit from the country by September 11, 2021, saying it's time to end America's longest war. His administration met a self-imposed August 31st, 2021 deadline with evacuations between 13,000 and 18,000 people per day. The withdrawal, described by some as a scramble and mad dash to meet the deadline, led to 13 U.S. service members being killed. The service members killed in action. The first service members killed in action since February 2020, and at least 18 others were injured during the attack at a checkpoint outside Kabul's airport. In addition, 170 Afghans were killed. In total, more than 120,000 people were eventually evacuated before September 2021. On Monday, the former U.S. soldier wrote on TikTok that it was his gear turn-in day following approximately 4 years of active duty in the Army's 82nd Airborne Division. The experience of leaving the service, he said, made him want to holler, scream, yell. 2 years ago, my unit was deployed to Afghanistan for the Afghanistan withdrawal, said the soldier, who goes by Brock on TikTok and has a handle at themichael.fam. We spent a few weeks over there. It was hectic. It was chaotic. It was disgusting. And it made me very disappointed in our government. Today, I'm reminded how disappointed how I am in our government. He continued, they want to charge me $500 to $1,000 for gear I was ordered to leave in Afghanistan 2 years ago because as the last 2 birds were sitting on the tarmac ready to leave, there wasn't any room for extra gear, extra weight. Therefore, we were told to leave it. Some lower level dudes, including myself, were like, no, this stuff is expensive. I'm not leaving this. I'm going to get charged for this when it's time to leave. By Tuesday morning, the video had been removed from TikTok. It was also posted on other platforms like X, formerly Twitter, by conservative accounts such as Libs of TikTok. The former soldier said the Army reversed course, instead charged him out of pocket for taking the gear back with him to the U.S. Meanwhile, we can continue to give millions of dollars to the Taliban. We can give billions of dollars to Ukraine. We can give billions of dollars to student loan debt relief. We can give a bunch of stupid stimulus checks, but we can cut those we can cut those to American people. He continued. So in other words, he opted not to leave the gear that he was actually ordered to leave. So let's be clear. If he had done what they told him to do, that gear right now would be sitting in Afghanistan. Or no, let me clarify. It wouldn't be sitting in Afghanistan. It would actually be being used by an Afghan soldier. Probably right now. By a Taliban soldier right now. It would be in use against our allies. If he had done what they told him to do. So he decided not to listen. He took it home with him. And now they want to charge him for it. This was gear he was ordered to leave behind. That's interesting. Would they have charged him if he had left it? Or did they know that he took it? I'm curious. There's some other things about this that I'm particularly curious about. But what I'm wondering about all this is, you told him to leave it. Meaning, you wrote it off. Why would you charge him for it? That makes no sense. Makes absolutely positively no sense. Or did he leave it? Did he in fact leave it? I have to be honest. I'm a little unclear from the story. If he left it, then why are you charging him for it? That makes no sense. Why are you charging an American soldier for equipment you told him to leave? Either way, whether he took it or not, why are you charging him for it? I don't get it. I'm confused. I'm confused. Somebody please share with me what is going on here. Just leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this particular situation. That was a story that was once again over at Newsweek. I would love to get your perspective on this, because like I said, I'll be honest, I'm just a wee bit confused by the story. But no matter what, whether he left it or not, I still don't understand why you're charging him for it. Because either way, you weren't going to have it. In fact, he should be charging you because he kept it out of the hands of our enemies. I don't know. If I were you, dude, I'd send him a bill. Just my thought. All right, moving right along. On to gun licensing law ruled unconstitutional. And you might not know this, but so there are some states like New Jersey and New York where in order to purchase a firearm, you actually have to apply first for a license to be able to purchase one. Now, the problem with this is that it oftentimes winds up delaying an individual's ability to be able to get a firearm. So let's say your life is in danger, someone threatens your life, you need to go purchase a firearm. Well, you have to go through a lengthy process of applying to get a permit in order to be able to purchase a firearm. And in places like New Jersey or New York, that can take it takes more than days, it takes at least weeks, and in some cases months or even years. And you can oftentimes be turned down for no real apparent reason. Right? In other words, you have to go get permission to exercise your right to keep and bear arms. Well, now we're finding out thanks to Bruin, and once again, I will totally give credit to Bruin once again for this particular ruling. But we are now seeing that Maryland's handgun licensing law has been struck down by a federal appeals court. It says here, a federal appeals court on Tuesday struck down Maryland's handgun licensing law, finding that its requirements, which include submitting fingerprints for a background check and taking a 4-hour firearm safety course, are unconstitutionally restrictive. In a 2-1 ruling, judges in the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond said they considered the case in light of a U.S. Supreme Court decision last year that affected a sea change in the Second Amendment law. And just so you know, the sea change in this case was you couldn't just out of the blue decide. I mean, how do I want to put this? The sea change that took place was that you had to, It had to be based on historical context. In other words, you had to show where this had been done in the past. Well, in the past, they didn't require you to take tests in order to be able to exercise your fundamental right. In the past, they didn't require you, or they couldn't require you, let me clarify, in many of these cases. They couldn't require you to have to go through a background check, once again, in order to exercise, or just to get a permit in order to exercise your right. And that's what's crazy about this, is that, once again, this is one step, one layer that they're trying to put in your way of you being able to exercise your right. And I'll give you an example. If you don't believe this is the case, in New Jersey, there was a case of a woman who had a restraining order against her I think it was her ex-boyfriend, and she had applied for a firearm permit and was denied multiple times. Not denied, I'm sorry. It was delayed. She was delayed in being able to get her permit. And as a result of these delays, extensive delays, the boyfriend would eventually attack her and kill her. She is dead because they delayed her right to her ability to be able to exercise her right to keep and bear arms. This is why when you have people talk about a right delayed is a right denied, sadly, not most people, but a lot of people only decide to avail themselves of their Second Amendment rights when they believe that they are in danger. And oftentimes, in places where there are restrictions or delays on that right, it puts them in danger. They are in danger because there is a period of time in which they will not be able to exercise that right. California is such a state. We don't have necessarily require you to get a permit, although that's something that's being proposed. We have a 10-day waiting period, right? And by the way, you have to go through the 10-day period even if you are just borrowing a firearm, unless you're borrowing it from an immediate family member. So if a friend of mine, someone threatened them and I just wanted to loan them a firearm until they could go through their 10-day background check, right? Nope, can't do it. Can't do it. It'd be against the law. It'd be a legal transfer of a firearm if I were to loan them a firearm. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? It is wildly crazy. That's just for a loan, right? And anyway, it is. And once again, I think the idea here is that they're trying to make sure that the Second Amendment is treated like the other amendments. Before, what they would say is you could come up with some sort of extenuating circumstance as to why this is okay for them to do. But I really believe that in this particular case, they've decided that, no, that's not okay. We're not going to allow you to do that. We have Melanie. Melanie over at YouTube says hi, so I'll say hi back. Thank you for tuning in. Encourage your friends to tune in as well. But yeah, no, I think this is actually a very good. There's going to be tons of good rulings like this, and we're starting to see them already. And especially as places like California and New York are working to pass clearly unconstitutional gun laws. We're going to see those laws fall by the wayside as well. And I hope they keep doing it. I hope they keep going after our fundamental right. And I say, this is the reason I say that. Not because I want people to lose their rights. But right now, we have a Supreme Court that is poised to overturn all of the unconstitutional madness that Democrats have been proposing, or that have proposed, or have passed, right? And once the Supreme Court decides on it, we'll be in a very, very good spot. Right? To no matter where. So if it passed in California and then it gets overruled, guess what? They can't do it in New York. They can't do it in New Jersey. They can't do it in Hawaii. They can't do it in Oregon or Washington or any of these other anti-gun states. It's without ever having to take up the issue, you are protected. Those of you in other states. That's the reason why. That's the reason why they let them keep doing their stupidity. And as they do their stupidity, we continue to make the case against it. We make sure it is known that what they are doing is unconstitutional, that they know that it's unconstitutional. What I'm hoping will eventually come of some of this, and I'm not saying it will, I'm just saying in a perfect world, you will start seeing some of these elected officials who know that they are passing unconstitutional laws. You'll start to see some of them have to be held accountable for knowingly violating the Constitution, because they take an oath of office. I'm a school board member, so I know part of that oath of office is to uphold the Constitution of these United States. That's your oath of office. And if you violate that oath of office, well, you ought to be challenged. You ought to potentially lose your position. That's just my 2 cents. But I think you are derelict in your duties when you start violating, intentionally, knowingly violating the Constitution, people's constitutional rights. Anyway. Moving on to our next story, pro-Hamas protests in California Dem Convention. Did I miss that? Okay, yes. Okay, no, I didn't. Okay, so this was an interesting one. So recently was held a hold on, let me see something here real quick. Dun dun dun. Did I? No, shoot. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, so recently was held a constitutional here was that? Yeah, the California State Convention was held at where was that? Anyway, a convention was held. The Democrat convention was held in Sacramento, and pro-Hamas protesters decided that they were going to, well, break it up. They were going to get in the way of it. Interestingly, let's go to that story real quick. Where's that? Here we go. Bam. All right, here we go. All right, so here you have pro-Palestine protests shut down California Democratic Convention. The California Democratic Convention in Sacramento, that's basically right here, was shut down early on Saturday after protests for a ceasefire in Gaza raised safety concerns. Now, what's really crazy about this one is once again, you have members of the Democratic Party who are very, very pro-Israel, but yet and still, you saw that their convention was shut down. It was, by the way, shut down because once again, because of violence, because they were pushing violence against. I'm sorry, I'm trying to do 2 things here at one time, but they were pushing violence at this against. I am just totally and completely losing my train of thought here. Because they're pushing violence. They're pushing violence in advocacy of a ceasefire. Now, here's what I don't get about this. If you are interested in actually a ceasefire, right? If you're interested in a ceasefire and you want to end violence, how do you do that by then engaging in violence? That makes absolutely no sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm crazy, but I would tend to think that no, you should not be engaging in violence. If your goal, once again, if the idea of what you're talking about here is about being, what's the word I'm looking for? If the goal of what it is that you're trying to do is to be peaceful, then one would think that you would want to remain peaceful, that you would want to engage in debate. But they're not really interested in being peaceful. They're not interested in open and honest debate. What they're interested in is, well, pushing a narrative. That's really what they're interested. That's what they're interested in. And sadly, that narrative is one of violence, and it is unfortunate, and it's really unfortunate because they do so much to undermine their own cause. They do. They really do. They go out of their way to undermine, in fact, their own cause, and it makes them look bad. And I'm sorry, I realize that I'm rambling, but I'm sitting here trying to do 2 different things at one time. But anyway, let's do this. Let's go ahead and let's get into today's parting shots. And parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Get your Hog Holster at hogholster.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. all caps, no spaces. Get your hog holster today. This first piece right here, this kind of goes in line with the whole we were talking about in the very beginning. We were talking about George Floyd. And I saw this. This is a piece by videos done by Tucker Carlson. Or anyway, you'll find it interesting. Check it out.
George Floyd is the Democratic Party's prototypical black man. These are the black men they are trying to create. So George Floyd has to be elevated. He has to be celebrated. He's perfect to them. He was poor. He was uneducated. He was a drug addict. He didn't have a job. To a white Democrat, this is the perfect black man. Because this is how they see black America. They see us the same way they see George Floyd. And they have to make more of us. You know, John F. Kennedy stood in front of the Berlin Wall in the 60s and said, if you think that communism is great, let them come to Berlin. Well, if you think that the Democratic Party is great, let them come to Detroit. Let them come to Chicago. Let them come to St. Louis. Let them come to L.A., Portland, Seattle, Memphis. Anywhere where they rule, you'll see George Floyd's all over the place. And they're proud of them. In Baltimore, Maryland, they spend $21,000 per child. Not one school is proficient in math, science, or reading. But they keep it going every year. Why? Because they're producing George Floyd.
Why would you want more people like that?
Because he votes for the Democrat Party. And then he teaches his children to vote for the Democrat Party.
And that is true. I hate to say this, but it is frustrating to see how they have canonized almost. They have practically canonized that individual. And it's very frustrating to see. It's very frustrating to see how they have, once again, canonized George Floyd. Almost made him a martyr. I mean, made him into something that he is not, because there is absolutely nothing praiseworthy that I know of about George Floyd. But in order to argue against what happened to him, they had to make him look like an innocent martyr. The other thing that they have to do is, you have people who are flat out lying about Biden and Bidenomics, and here's Biden himself lying against himself.
Americans are a $400 unexpected expense away from bankruptcy.
That's Bidenomics in action. You think I'm kidding? Bidenomics is working.
All right, folks. Well, hey, that's going to be it for today's program. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program, and encourage your friends to do the same. We'll be back tomorrow on Hump Day. We'll holler at you then. Y'all take care. Goodbye.